Good morning and welcome back. It is Saturday, January 17th, 2026. You are listening to DX Today, the briefing where we strip away the marketing noise and look at what is actually happening in the world of digital transformation. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike. It's good to be here, Alex. Looking at the calendar, we are roughly 24 months past what I like to call the hype explosion of early Gen AI. And if 2024 was about figuring out what a chatbot was, 2026 is clearly starting off as the year we stopped talking to them.
That's a bold opening, Mike. Stop talking to them? Considering the billions of dollars flowing into large language models, I assume you don't mean we're abandoning the tech.
Not at all. I mean, the interface is disappearing. We are seeing the definitive shift from generative AI, where I ask for a poem or a summary, to agentic AI, where I give a broad objective and the system just goes and does it. It's the difference between a tool and a digital worker.
The industrialization of intelligence. We've been tracking this at DX Today for months, but the start of 2026 has really solidified the Big Four dominance. It feels like the market has finally matured into distinct philosophies. Let's start with OpenAI. They made a massive pivot late last year with the 5 series models.
Right. The split between GPT 5.1 and 5.2 was the signal. For a long time, the race was just make the smartest single model, but OpenAI realized that was inefficient. Now we have this dual-mode ecosystem. You've got the instant mode, which is warm, incredibly fast, and handles 90% of daily interaction. But then you have thinking mode.
That's the inference time scaling, right? Where the model effectively pauses to reason before answering?
Exactly. It uses a massive amount of compute to solve complex scientific or mathematical problems. But the real headline for 2026 isn't the thinking, it's the doing. The operator feature released back in 25 has fully matured. I tested it this morning. I didn't ask it to find flight prices. I told it, book me a flight to London under $800, window seat, not near the bathroom, and I put my phone down. It opened the browser, navigated the interface, and finalized the transaction. That is agentic behavior.
It's impressive, but it also highlights the different path Google is taking. While OpenAI is automating the browser, Google seems to be trying to rebuild the interface entirely with Gemini 3.
Google is betting on generative UI. This is fascinating, Alex. If you ask Gemini 3 for a comparison of electric vehicles, it doesn't give you a text list. It generates a custom interactive dashboard widget on the fly. It codes a mini app for you in real time. And with the 1.5 million token context window now standard, you can dump an entire corporate archive into it and it visualizes the data instantly.
And we can't ignore the commerce angle. The partnerships with Walmart and Shopify are live. Google isn't just serving ads anymore. Gemini is handling the end-to-end shopping journey. It's an interesting contrast. OpenAI is acting like a human using a computer, while Google is changing what the computer shows the human.
Well put. But then you have the wild card, XAI. Grok 4.1 has surprised a lot of people. They moved away from the edgy, anti-woke marketing of the early days and pivoted hard into EQ, emotional intelligence.
It's become the go-to for creative writing and customer service, surprisingly. And because of the X integration, it's still the only model with that sub-second pulse on global news. If something happens in the financial markets, Grok knows about it before the other models have even scraped a news article.
And that immediacy is crucial. But you know, Alex, amidst all this feature talk, operator, Gen UI, EQ, it's easy to get lost in the specs. And I think that's where the industry often fails business leaders. We get obsessed with the shiny object.
That is a perfect segue, Mike, because that is exactly why we rebranded our mission here at DX Today. We aren't just reporting on the tech, we're filtering it. The feedback we get from our enterprise subscribers is consistent. Stop telling me what's cool, tell me what works.
Precisely. If you look at the AI daily briefs we're putting out now, the editorial standard has shifted. We are strictly no hype. We're looking at regulatory compliance, tangible ROI, and the actual mechanics of moving from a pilot to production. It's not about which model is smartest on a benchmark test. It's about which infrastructure can actually support your business without hallucinating or leaking data. DX Today really stands for that transition from digital experimentation to true digital transformation.
It's about being a critical filter. And speaking of critical filters, let's talk about the physical reality of this tech. We've covered the software, but Meta is winning the war for the physical world right now.
Meta played the long game.
Everyone mocked the metaverse, but they pivoted those resources into AI wearables, and it worked. The Ray-Ban Meta Smart Glasses version 3 are everywhere. But the secret weapon isn't the glasses, it's the neural band.
The wrist controller. I've tried it. It feels like magic. Subtle finger movements to control the AI without speaking.
Jakob Nielsen predicted 2026 would be the year of zero UI, or ambient computing. Meta is proving that right. You aren't tapping a screen. You're looking at a building. The AI whispers the history into your ear, and a twitch of your finger saves the location. It's seamless. But Alex, all this seamless magic requires a staggering amount of energy.
It does, and that's the elephant in the room. We aren't seeing the massive singular investment announcements we saw in 25, but the infrastructure squeeze is real. We know about the Microsoft and OpenAI Stargate data center concept, but the reality on the ground this month is that power availability is becoming the primary bottleneck for scaling these agentic systems.
It's becoming a national security issue. If you can't power the data center, you can't run the agents. And this ties directly into the regulatory landscape, which is, let's say, complicated right now.
Complicated is a polite word for it. In Europe, the path is clear, even if it's strict. The EU AI Act entered into force back in 2024, but we are staring down the barrel of August 2nd, 2026. That's when the key provisions for high-risk AI systems kick in. Companies operating in the EU are scrambling to get their documentation in order.
Meanwhile, in the US, we're still dealing with fragmentation. Despite the talk of national standards, we haven't seen a unified federal framework that effectively preempts the state-level patchwork. If you're a CTO, you're navigating California safety standards versus New York's hiring bias laws while trying to remain compliant with the EU. It's a mess.
And that regulatory mess is partly why we saw that ROI crisis last year. Companies paused because they were afraid of liability. But Mike, are we seeing a thaw there? Are the pilots finally turning into profits?
We are seeing stabilization. I want to be careful here. There was a lot of noise last year about 95% of pilots failing. We don't have hard numbers from a major firm like McKinsey confirming a sudden massive success rate of 20% or anything like that yet. However, the qualitative data suggests that companies have stopped trying to use AI for everything and are now using agentic AI for specific things: coding pipelines, customer support triage, and supply chain forecasting. That focus is finally generating yield.
It's the boring stuff that pays off. And that brings us to the workforce. There's a lot of anxiety about agents taking jobs.
The anxiety is valid, but the data is shifting. It's less about replacement and more about fluency. We're hearing from recruiters that AI literacy is becoming a baseline requirement. It's not about being a prompt engineer anymore. That's old news. It's about being an agent manager. Can you oversee a team of digital workers? Can you audit their outputs? That is the skill set of 2026.
So, to synthesize where we are on this Saturday in January, the chatbots have become agents, the interface is dissolving into zero UI, the power grid is growing under the weight, and the regulators are closing in. But for the first time, the utility feels real.
That's the takeaway. The novelty has worn off. Now comes the hard work of integration. And frankly, that's where the winners will be made. Not the ones with the best model, but the ones with the best workflows.
Facts, no hype. That's the DX Today promise. We'll be tracking the rollout of those high-risk EU regulations and the ongoing platform wars right here.
Thanks for listening to this DX Today audio production. Stay curious, stay critical, and we'll catch you on the next briefing.
Have a great weekend, everyone.